Oh, we both got the Steve McQueen white tees on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's why I wore it. Is that why you wore it?
yeah, 100%.
I wanted to start by asking why is Bullitt a worthwhile film to discuss?
Why is Bullitt a worthwhile film to discuss? Well, I think there's a bunch of reasons. One, okay, to me, it's when you talk about iconic actors, Steve McQueen is one of them. And I'd say this more than any other movie is a Steve McQueen movie. And I remember hearing Lawrence Kasdan, the writer who wrote like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the screenplay for Empire Strikes Back, and really, big deal screenwriter. He had said for any young actor going to Hollywood who wants to be a star, they have to watch Bullitt just to know how to get in and out of a car. Uh, and I was like, yeah, it's just that's a movie star. And
Right.
it's not that simple though. Just I think so. One, I'll say it's important because it really highlights, I think, one of the better screen actors, and two, he's one of the better Steve McQueen better screen actors because it's really geared. I think he's one of the first actors that really geared it for the screen. Like he didn't just perform well on stage and then go do it. Like he knew back when he did the TV show Wanted Dead or Alive, he was known for watching the rushes every day to see if he's because the acting doesn't just because you feel it, it doesn't mean it translates. And so he would see if he was doing too much. Okay, then tomorrow I'll do less or whatever it was, and he became known as that guy who does everything with a look. And I rewatched it not long ago with Alex, who'd never seen it, and Alex was like, "Oh man, like he's doing a lot just when they do a thing on his
Yeah.
face." And McQueen was known for that film, Bullitt specifically, to cross out pages of dialogue, saying, "Yeah,
Right.
we don't need that. I'll just do that." Anyway, all that. So it's a McQueen performance, and also it's easy to say it's one of the best cop thrillers. I don't know that it is because I barely remember the police element. Like I know he's a cop, but I've seen it, I don't know, 10 times. I don't remember what the story's about. It
Mm.
looks cool. It's known for its car chase, and I think that is an important thing. And I know it's been topped, and people want to keep getting better and bigger and bigger. And I always look at the James Bond franchise. It kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until Pierce Brosnan was surfing on glaciers. Like, you keep topping yourself towards a cartoon, and then the Daniel Craig Casino Royale came out, and they're like, yeah, let's bring it back down. And so car chases have gotten bigger and bigger. And the music, and now Fast and the Furious, the cars are flying out of airplanes. Like,
Right.
and that's cool. But I tell you, and not just because it's important, but the car chase and Bullitt, you've got this jazz score going, and then McQueen sees the guy, and the guy sees McQueen in their cars. Music cuts out, engines. That's all you hear. The two different types of engines. And that was
Right.
so badass. McQueen did his own driving. And it was the first time people forget, like before Bullitt, there wasn't a car chase in the movie. Think about it. If there was, it was like
That's
black
true.
and white Keystone Cops, like
Yeah.
there wasn't a car chase in the movie.
Yeah, not
It
that I can
seems so
recall.
easy to say, well, what are you talking about? Car chases are in every. No, but this invented that. There wasn't
Yeah,
a
that's
car
true.
chase. Think
Mm.
name a movie with a car chase, and then everything, right, from the French Connection to the Vanishing Point, everything was like, oh,
Seven
Smokey and
Ups
the
has a
Bandit. Yeah.
classic one as well.
So I
Um,
would say it's iconic and famous for McQueen, for its style, and for the car chase. But if you're looking for just a good cop film, go The French Connection.
right. And we've been in the last two talks we had focusing on gritty
Yes.
portrayals of police officers,
Yeah.
which was Serpico and the French Connection. And if anyone missed it, it's on our IGTV section on Instagram. But I watched this film again the other day, Bullitt, and I agree. I couldn't remember anything about the story or the plot, and I've seen it definitely more than once.
Yeah.
But this is a very different police officer as opposed to, or portrayal of a police as opposed to the ones we were focusing on, which were they were, either somewhat corrupt or flawed or fighting the system like Serpico.
Right.
But I think in a way it's a shame that even before we spoke today, I went to just read some reviews of Bullitt and read some trivia on Bullitt, and everything is about the action and the stunts and the car chases. And I understand how revolutionary that was and how exciting it is, and what it did for the action thriller genre. However, I think people miss that there is the story is good as well, but not only that, he, as a character, Frank Bullitt, he's a smart guy. Like this is not he's actually a good cop. He's smart, and I like what McQueen did, and particularly with the scenes with Robert Vaughn, where every time Vaughn is pushing him, he doesn't even react. It's like, we talk about the fact that, he was so subtle, and yet he was doing so much by doing almost nothing.
Yeah. But that's
when totally, and it's very how he figured that out as a way to, launch his persona. I don't know, but when Robert Vaughn pushes him to where's my client, the guy Ross who was killed,
right.
where and McQueen's hiding him, and where is he, and threatening McQueen's job and threatening his career, and McQueen just plays it totally neutral, and he's just like, excuse me, and just walks away, but not even I think if it were me, I'd be like, I gotta give him a dirty look or something, but nothing, just totally.
He's got that famous line, "You work your side of the street, I'll work mine."
Yeah, he just shuts him right out until the very end when he says, "You know what? I don't like you." That's when all of a sudden
it's not a big dramatic thing. It's just, I don't
like
you. And I
that's
think
it. Very simple.
Well, I think the character, right? I for all the he's doing nothing in this movie, sure, but he isn't. I know I've read so many books about McQueen, and he took that character everything seriously, right? He did research. He based it on cops.
A real guy, yeah.
And the main thing is look, there's the movie version of stuff, right? And I look at it this way. I remember they were talking about, a movie punch, okay? A movie punch, like Indiana Jones, big. And if they took, and they've done this, you take a boxer, an actual boxer, and put them in a movie and have a fight scene. If that boxer punches the real way he punched, it wouldn't photograph. It's not going to look right. So you got to retrain that boxer to hit sloppy, crap. And don't do it real. And so I think with a lot of characters, we'll say cop films, it's don't do it real. Do it what we expect to see, the big punch, do the big, hey, or whatever. And I think what I've read, my understanding is that McQueen did the boxer punch version of playing it. No, the cops he met were not small, but were confident enough that they didn't need to yell, raise their voice, throw their weight around. They could just stare at whoever they were talking to, and confident in knowing what they know. They don't need to make a show of it. So when McQueen got the script and it had all the monologues, and let me explain to you something about justice, he went, or I could just stare at him, and the audience will get it, and we did. And I think that's where that came from. It was both based on a real guy, and not the movie. I'm not saying the movie's based on, but McQueen kind of. Minimalism seriously.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, I was reading what Ebert apparently his review was good. However, I disagreed with something he said. He was talking about the Jacqueline Bisset character, and he thought that
Right.
her character was a total waste for the film, totally unnecessary. You know, like it wasn't enough for them to have this action film. They also have to have a beautiful leading lady. And he's like,
Right.
well, she's beautiful to look at, but her scenes were pointless. However, I think he missed something there because I think she reveals something about Frank that is essential to why he doesn't react to much, why he's so neutral and just going about his job. Where she says to him, like, you've just turned cold,
Yeah, I remember
you
that.
know,
That's
because
right.
of this work. He's just desensitized to it. Like, and when she walks in and that strangulation of that woman who was strangled,
Oh, I
and he's
remember
on,
that
and
scene.
she's
Yeah.
watching him on the phone, and he's calling, you know, the coroner, and he's very, you know, it's as if he's calling. You know, as if he's running some kind of an errand. Like it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything to him, and you know, so I think that, you know, when people say, "Oh, McQueen's doing nothing," I think, but that's the guy. Like the guy is doing his job, and he's not getting emotionally wrapped up in it
Well,
because
because you
these things
can't.
happen
Yeah.
all the time. You know, it's not Popeye Doyle, who of course is very different in the sense that he was getting off on these things and he loved and
That's
he was
right.
obsessive, and you know, Frank is, and I think that is. I know people don't think that is interesting, but I actually think coldness is very interesting
So do
in
I.
this, and I don't mean cold like he's mean. I'm
No.
saying that it just doesn't get to him. Like he's doing his job. He's smart. He's a good he's a good cop. He knew the way criminals thought. He knew the way the politician Robert Vaughn was thinking, and he knew that he was suspicious enough to
Yeah.
keep him out of it until he found out more information. And I thought that was really interesting. That's not easy to pull off as an actor
No, I agree with you.
be
I
that strong. And so I think the minimalism is I think minimalism is a real underrated art form and craft that some
Yeah.
actors are brilliant at. And you know, obviously, many people have tried to do something along those lines. You know, as you had your movie pick of the day recently, which was Drive,
Right.
and Gosling was
Oh
must
yeah.
have been inspired by McQueen's
I think so.
performance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like undoubtedly an inspiration. But I don't know. How do you feel about that Bissett character? Do you agree with
Well,
Ebert or
I
disagree?
agree. I agree with what you just said. I think, well, 50-50, I suppose, because I agree that she's definitely there because he's such a lone wolf. Like, I don't know, we're not in his head because no one really knows what's going on with him. But she's there to remind, we're her. So when she reminds us that she's the sounding board for how he feels, okay? Because he's not going to say to the audience or to anyone, I feel this or this. It's just a job. I don't know that he feels anything but doing his sense of duty. B, I think by her saying, like, this is like how you're so cold, that's letting us know, okay, so it's not just us. He is detached. He is cold. Okay, okay. So I think it's sort of like we're supposed to identify with Bissett, which makes her necessary. Like, because without her, we're just watching a guy walk through the streets and drive, and we don't really know what's going on. And I think the plot sort of, because there's not much dialogue, is sort of tricky. But we don't know what's going on with him unless she is expressing like, "Hey, man, like, just a reminder to you, audience. He thinks this is normal. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what that says about him." And then we get to all go, "Oh yeah, Jacqueline Bisset, you're right. That is weird." But not in a serial killer way. Like, that's his duty. Like, what's he gonna do? Cry every time he sees a murder? Like, holy shit. Maybe he did 15 years ago when he started, or 20 years ago. But like, okay, so I think she's there as a sounding board. I think she's there for the audience to identify with. However, that's the 50% where I agree she is necessary. Um, but what Ebert said, like maybe though, that device that she serves to let us know where he's at, or to serve as a juxtaposition, like to show how different he is from regular society. Didn't need to be like a pretty girl. Like, like that could have been anyone. But
Right.
I disagree with my own argument, come to think of it. Because who else is going to say that? Who else? A
Yeah,
friend? Who's going to say
right.
you're so cold, you're so detached?
Only your girlfriend or your wife, right?
Exactly. So, you know what? Yeah.
Or your mother.
Yeah, and can you imagine Bullitt, like where we suddenly have a scene where he goes home for dinner? Like I could see
It would be too funny.
You could see it in Serpico,
Yes.
like something like that. But that's a different guy.
Totally.
If Bullitt suddenly his name's Bullitt for God's sake. And
Frank Bullitt.
Frank Bullitt.
Yeah.
Suddenly went, I gotta go talk to mom and dad over a pot roast about the day I'm having.
Yeah, not with
That's
McQueen.
crazy.
That would not work.
No, and that might have been in the script, and then Steve McQueen went, "Nah, not on my watch, baby."
Yeah, you gotta get Jacqueline Bisset.
Yeah, you get me a beautiful woman with very little dialogue as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? This one moment, and it sounds stupid, but so yesterday we were talking about Rocco and his brothers.
Right.
Not on Instagram for anyone, but a YouTube video. And I said to Robert, it's interesting how you pick these moments in films where the actor reacts to something. It's this moment. It's never the obvious. Like I imagine if we were doing something on the waterfront, you wouldn't talk about the Charlie, you're my brother. You'd pick some little look Brando did to.
Probably.
You know what you'd pick? No, you'd pick for On the Waterfront, because it stands out to me, is when he's with Eva Marie Saint in the park and the homeless guy asks for money. That's what it was his reaction to the guy.
Oh yeah. And he throws them.
And so I pick these little things. Maybe I don't pick, like that's the acting teacher in you, I think, is you pick the reactions, like like how an actor reacts to another actor. I find I'm always interested in just, I guess similar, just any little behavioral moment. I don't search for it, but it stands out. So in the case of Bullitt, what I'm saying is, yeah, the car chase is awesome and his haircut's cool and everything, but there's this thing, and I'm obsessed with it ever since I first saw it. And when I showed it to Al, he too was like, oh, look at that. It's near the beginning. Steve McQueen's asleep at home. Don Gordon, who plays another cop, rings his doorbell at the bottom, to let him up. Comes up, and it's watching Steve McQueen wake up. He's sitting on the edge of the bed. He looks cold. He makes instant coffee. And it's just, this will sound stupid, but he wakes up very believably. Like, you know what I mean? Either actors are up and they look great, or they make a meal of it with the yawning and the... McQueen just did that sort of thing where I'm like, oh, it feels like it's 6 a.m. and it's chilly out. Like, oh, man. And it was always that little moment. And I'm like, that's why he's so good. Because it's not an accident. And for a novice or a non-actor would look at that, and yeah, they wouldn't notice it. That's the job of an actor, I think. It's not, look how good I'm doing. It's, you just should not notice. Like a good film editor, I shouldn't be aware of, ooh, cool cut. No, I shouldn't be aware of it, I think.
Right.
Unless you're trying to do a thing. I don't know. But so
I imagine he got that from Meisner, because Meisner would always say, even if you're going to wake up, like someone wakes you up, what do you do when you wake up? Well, maybe I rub my eyes and that's it, or whatever it may be. Or something.
He's a Meisner guy. That's right.
Totally. And he's the king of listening, as Simon Furness, who we're talking to on Thursday. I don't know if you saw his comment. He's like, McQueen's the king of listening. But he listens not all the time, but often in a way which is he's seeing what the other person is doing and but he's not responding to it. But you can see how he's taking it in, but
Yeah,
he's not necessarily, responding
that's
off
well
of
said.
what off of the threat, or something along those lines. Which again, I noticed that when he just simply says to Robert Vaughn, "Excuse me," and he walks away. But it's not rude. It's not. It's just
No,
very like, get
I
out
think
of my way. It's
yeah,
yeah.
he's
It's really subtle, and I thought, wow, that takes great bravery to do
I
that. So
agree.
he understood that was his power.
Yeah,
But
he was a
what?
very confident actor in that he didn't
Yeah,
feel the need
yeah,
to fill the screen with busyness. To know that
yes,
you listening is enough if you mean it, if
yeah.
it's real, like that is enough. And stuff
No,
that
absolutely.
we learn in, especially in Meisner. I think he's a great example of Meisner, of someone who listens and, like you said, doesn't need to react in the way we picture react. But like you just said, you can see how he is. He's not blank. He's taking it in, but is confident enough that
Yes,
he doesn't have to oversell the audience on look at me doing my
right.
job. Look at me doing my job. It's just I'm
Yeah,
just doing it. And isn't that what the whole thing is? Do it. Don't tell me.
yes,
Just do it.
yes,
And
and
that
I
can mean
and
very little.
yes, exactly. And I think that fits in so well with Frank, which is what the Jacqueline Bisset character points out. So that's why I thought that was a really cool character. I don't know if that was intentional as a way to say something about his character, or if it was simply, well, we need to have a beautiful woman. We need to have a
Yeah,
leading
I don't
lady,
know.
or both. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know, but
probably both.
yeah, that stood out to me because I'm always looking for the behavior in even in something that maybe this is considered a cop action thriller, but I did think
Right.
that he it is an interesting character, and coldness is hard to play because your actor instincts are always saying you got to do more, you got to do more, you got to do more. And I remember I was doing a film with Simon, who we're talking to Thursday, and he wanted me to be that way. With when I was playing someone who's breaking up with his girlfriend, but he wanted me to be
Right.
very cold. And I remember when we shot it, I think I think I totally forgot about that. And I was doing all sorts of, I was getting mad. I was doing all sorts of variations of it. And then when I watched it back, it was not like as cold as McQueen, but it was very, very, just borderline angry, but very, very cold, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I thought, when did I do that? But that's the mark of a good director. He found a way to edit it that way or get it out of me. But I'm like, but obviously, I
100%.
think now, yeah, I think now I'd have an easier time with that. But I think McQueen is a perfect example of
Well, again,
like
like
there's
I
a,
said
there's
earlier,
there's a power in that.
yeah, and I don't think that's an accident. That was by design. Like, I don't mean
For
that he
sure.
started a career as an actor and you know what? I'm going to be the guy who says nothing. Not at all. In fact, if you watch, like I say, um, his show from I think 1959 to 1961 or two, Wanted Dead or Alive. He's lighter. Like there is comedy in it. Like not comedy like slapstick, but he's definitely lighter than where he'd go. Uh,
Right.
but it was during the filming of that show that he wanted. All he was trying to do, it seems, is make sure he's not overselling.
Right.
So when he would go watch back a scene he did that day, okay, I'm blinking too much, whatever the hell it was, but like I'm doing too much because the camera, as you know, like when it's there, you just got to think it. You don't got to play it. I mean, if it's a wide shot, then it's sort of like when you're on stage, you can play it a little, but in close, you don't. So anyway, when Steve McQueen, my understanding is he would look at that, okay, do less, do less, do less. And I think by virtue of just practicing that stillness and that confidence,
Yes.
It sort
Yeah.
of leaves you, though, the negative might be you're limited with your, not as an actor, but with what your options are from producers. Like, you're not going to get the opportunity to do, like, a lot of the stuff Paul Newman did was a little more like Bugs Bunny. Like, he was a little more talky and you know, funny. And McQueen, I don't even think would have been offered that stuff because you
Right.
get so good at that stillness. And I'm
Yeah.
sure he could do a hell of a lot more. But I also understand that that's what he wanted to do. He liked to just
Yeah.
be there and be physical. And not physical as in like punching and all that. Just like, I'm going to use my body to tell the thing, not the words. And
Right.
yeah, as we saw in The Great Escape, the guy likes machines, so he had that motorcycle chase, and then in Bullitt, he's got the car chase. And a bit of interesting trivia, I had mentioned this a few weeks ago on the French Connection thing, is the guy McQueen's chasing in Bullitt is Bill Hickman, who
Yes.
was the driver in the French Connection, did the driving, and was a real life stunt driver, race car driver. And he, again, is in another iconic driving movie. And but I do agree that Bullitt, so when I went to rewatch it, I'm like, well, it's about a lot more than a car chase. But, like, what's it about? So I really, okay, here we go. I'm going to focus on the plot. And I don't know, somewhere around that scene where Jacqueline Bisset sees the dead body in the motel, I remember going like, I don't know what's happening, but who cares? I'm so interested. I know basically he's trying to get a bad guy and that Robert Vaughn is corrupt. But, like, watching him, like, figure out the mystery, I don't remember how one clue led to the next.
Well, yeah, because I remembered it that way as well. That Vaughn was corrupt, but then when I watched it again, I was like, oh, he seems. Oh, I'm sure he is corrupt, but they don't show any evidence that he's
So
corrupt.
he's not
and
a bad guy.
Yeah, no, but he seems like he is. He's trying to get the mob. And he's using this, and what happens is I don't know if you recall, but this is actually it's a good story, and I think people are often when I've read trivia and reviews, all you read about is the cars and the stunts, and yes, I admire that, but it does lead the audience one way and then go another way, and Robert Vaughn's character was key to that because at first when Ross gets killed and he's the guy who literally opens the door, unlocks the door when those guys come in, and then he's like, oh, but they said, all you hear him say is they said, and then he gets shot too. So you think, but then you are convinced, oh, Robert Vaughn is totally in on this. This is some kind of, plot because, if he doesn't get his way, he threatens your job. Or you even see with the doctor when he didn't like that doctor because the doctor says, well, this guy's too sick to talk. You got to wait because he wanted to talk to him. And he's like, yeah, could you get your supervisor? It's like, I'm going to replace the doctor. So he says to as he says to the nurse. So, it's going that way. Okay. And you're putting it together. Okay. Well, now McQueen knows that, and he's suspicious of Vaughn. He confronts Vaughn with it. Vaughn says, you think I'm involved in this? I think McQueen doesn't even answer, and then it's not until you find out that, oh, this whole thing was a con for this mafia guy to think that he is going to rat on the mafia. And then they're going to put another guy in there so that the mafia thinks this guy Ross has been killed as he runs away. It was a great con job. Which is what McQueen figured out. So then you keep thinking like, oh, Vaughn is corrupt, but he's actually not. And he's just sleazy. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. He's not.
And then at the end,
not a great guy, but he's not doing anything technically illegal.
No, he's not.
A shitty politician.
Yeah, he's just being a shitty politician, threatening, making his threats, ruining jobs. He even says to that other cop as he sees them outside the church. and he meets their sons, and he's like, "Oh, I bet you college is really expensive." You know,
That's
wink,
right.
wink.
I know exactly the moment.
Yeah, yeah, you know, I'm going to take your job. But then in the end, even when he finds out that he was conned, he still wants to talk to that. He's like, well, he's still my witness.
Yeah.
He was so obsessed with getting the mafia that he didn't even care that this guy was a total. I guess that is where the corruption runs. He doesn't even care that this guy conned him and basically set up for someone else to get killed who wasn't even Ross.
No,
For anyone who's watching, if you haven't seen it, I know what I'm saying maybe sounds confusing, but if you watch it, it does have these interesting twists.
Oh, it does. Like
Vaughn is the key. Yeah, Vaughn's character is
nailed it. You nailed it, and it's well, you said it really well. Like all you do read about it is the car chase stuff.
Yeah,
but there's a good little plot, and as I'm
totally
guilty of missing it over and over because you know, as you were talking, I remember the last time I saw it with Alex that we did get it, but it just showed, but I forget it because again the focus.
Yeah.
This is why everyone is writing about the car chase and the look of the movie. I guess that overtakes. Well, you know what it is? It's the plot. It's just not a. It sounds stupid, but it's not like a plot-driven film. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a plot.
No.
It has to be, or else you wouldn't have a movie. But it's designed that isn't the focus, and so
exactly.
in a way, the movie is sort of like the way Steve McQueen acts. Like it isn't.
Yeah.
It's a confident film in its story and doesn't need to highlight, look at this, and then we're going to twist over here and then over there and then over. No, it just sort of unfolds, and we throw some cool action into it, and so it does satisfy, but it doesn't leave you talking about, well, did you see that cool twist? Which is
right.
Exactly like McQueen's acting. You remember him, he did his job, you believe him, but no one's like, did you see how emotional Steve got?
Right.
No, because the plot and the performance really go hand in hand. They are intricate, they are detailed, they are present, but they don't make a big deal of, hey, look at me. They're confident in the execution of it, and it just is. And the other thing they kind of both, Steve and the plot, pushed for was fucking car chase. And is that, you ask, you know, is Jacqueline, or not you, Roger Ebert, is Jacqueline Bisset necessary? It was the car chase to the
exactly
plot? No.
Yeah,
but looking back, hell yeah, it is, because it's such a focal point. It was so cool, and again, it introduced the concept of a car chase as not just. I mean, I don't even know how to compare it. They didn't do it. Just think about that, people. Like, that wasn't a thing in a movie. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
You had people, like, tail someone, like in, like, The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart or something. Like, you know, but it wouldn't be a whole scene. It would be Bogart sits in his car, watching across the road. Across the road, that guy gets in his car, takes off. Cut. That guy pulls up to wherever, and Bogart's, you know, behind him. That was it. And then in 1968, they went, you know what we need? Let's drive through the streets of San Francisco, and, you know, we'll get a couple of stuntmen. And, of course, Steve McQueen went, I'll do it. Okay. And you see, like, they make sure that he's well lit in the car, so you know it's him. Like, you see his head out the window.
Yeah. I read that. And it's
cool.
even him under the plane, too, because I even thought that doesn't look like a double.
No, that's cool.
So how the hell did he do that?
He likes stunts, and again,
I know.
Two things was, it was the 60s, so I don't think there was as much. No one cared. Not no one cared. That's not fair. But it wasn't as, you know, rule stringent as we are now with everything and insurance. And that.
Right.
And also, let's not forget, he was a star. So, like Tom Cruise does all his stuff, you can do it the hell you want. If your name is what's selling the project, if you want a scene where you eat pickles, we'll put it in. Like, you can do whatever you want. But instead of eating pickles, Steve wanted to run under airplanes and drive cars. And now 50 years later, Tom Cruise wants to hang off skyscrapers and airplanes, and kudos to you. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think it's that too. It's the star power, but it's interesting. Like now, I'm thinking. I think until McQueen did do that in Bullitt and in other movies, his own stuff. I don't think it was even a considerate. Like, I think that started the Tom Cruises of like, I want to do it myself.
For sure, yeah.
Whatever other actor, I want to do the fight, I want to do the car, I want to do the thing.
Yeah.
And I bet McQueen didn't do it out of ego. It was probably like, this is my favorite part.
He wanted, yeah.
Like, this is so fun. Like,
he wanted to do
what
it.
What am I going to do? Stand around and stare at people all day? Let me do a thing.
Right. But I think you're right in the sense that, yeah, it was really probably more so designed around, using San Francisco, the style, the chases, and all the things we've discussed that everybody to this day remembers so much. And it's cool, but I don't know if you feel the way I do, in the sense that it's a shame that the substance of it, I'm not saying it's such a complex substance, but the story and this character, this Frank, is not talked about at all. I mean, to me, that's a shame. I don't know how you feel about that.
I agree with you. He at least, like we were just saying, man, like you just educated me on the plot. Like, you're right, that is a good plot. And I'm aware of it. It wasn't like, it's just you reminded me, like, because I just didn't think about it. And you're right, but like the last time I saw it, I was aware, like, Steve McQueen's doing a lot of stuff here, and it is a shame. I don't know if it's a shame, but like that car chase for this film specifically is so famous that everything else, as you're saying, took a back seat. And now you've got me thinking about like other McQueen movies. Well, no, I guess I was going to say Papillon, but people, they didn't have a car chase to rely on. Like, I think when people think of that movie, they do realize, McQueen held his own with Dustin Hoffman. Like, he was really good.
Yeah, he could act.
He sure could. That solitary confinement thing was great. I'm losing my mind. But, I think you're right. I think it's just it's a testament to how cool the car chase was, that a really good performance just sort of goes, well, but I also think it's a testament to how good he is, because yes, I know people, well, if I go, Steve McQueen, he was really good in Bullitt, like his performance. Well, he didn't do anything. I'm like, that's why he was
I hate that.
That's why he was good, though, because he didn't do
anything.
Exactly. That's it, man. And then I go into a whole tangent. Oh, what's good? The actor who screams and cries? We can all do that.
No, that's true.
Now. Yeah,
it's why is subtleness not good? I know it's true. It's like, why do people think?
Man. And it's the hardest thing to do on film.
Totally. I think it was. Who was it that said that? Was it? I can't remember. I think it was. Was it Richard? I think it was Richard Gere who said he has an easier time being dramatic than just saying good morning on camera. I think it was Gere.
It's so funny you bring that up. As we were just talking about this, I flashed to Richard Gere, because I think that's another unsung, especially his early career. I think he's very good. And if go back, I know we're wildly off topic, so I'll just say this. We'll make this a topic. Watch American Gigolo again. Anyone watching, watch American Gigolo again. And that's another movie where Richard Gere is doing nothing. Oh, he's just being handsome. Watch the movie again. There's a lot more than that simple plot. There's a lot of being said about that guy. In fact, Paul Schrader, who wrote and directed that, said it is like a sequel to Taxi Driver. It's another study of man alone. Just another extreme end. But anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but that's another thing where Gere is doing quote unquote nothing. But I think that is harder to just say, good morning, how's the toast, than it is to burst into the room. Give me my money. Where's my money? You fucking ass.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think I could.
No, I agree. I know I
Yeah.
find it way harder. I know I find it harder because again, it's that instinct that's saying, is this all I'm doing here? This can't be
Yeah.
right, you know.
Right.
But
Right. Well, listen. Look
and we all
what you
have that.
teach. Look what you teach. Look, you and I have talked about this because I'm Meisner trained, and so are you, and you teach Meisner. How often in repetition? When's the last time you saw subtlety in a repetition exercise? Never. It always
Right.
Cowboys.
Right.
My teacher used to call it. It's just cowboys. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
God, yeah.
on film looks dramatic, but that's easy.
Right.
That's what people do when they're nervous. That's what people do as a fail-safe. That's what people do when, they almost are driving the car and they almost hit the cyclist. They're not going to be true. They're not going to be vulnerable. They're going to swear and yell and honk their horn. And I think that's the same thing. And so when you get a performance like McQueen as Frank Bullitt, the character's name, not doing any of that, none of it.
Right.
And in situations that probably warrant it, people, well, nah, it wasn't acting. Oh, you idiots! It was.
Well, I think that is really a testament to how us as humans sort of, because we're in our head so often, we miss life. And I think the reason why dramatic performances or really comedic performances stand out so much because you can't help but notice them. But I think maybe because those things, just like if you went outside and you saw a cop pull up and arrest some guys, you can't help but be drawn to it. But I think we don't look at each other enough in life, so we miss performances like these, like McQueen and Bullitt, and also even Vaughn. I thought Vaughn was also very subtle as well. Obviously, he has more of a I'm gonna fucking like ruin your career attitude, but very subtle. It's very sharp. Yeah, totally. But very, very good, and apparently he considered it his best performance. And I didn't know this. I just read this before we started that he didn't want to do it. He didn't like the script. He thought the plot was not strong enough. And apparently McQueen was the one who kept trying, thought he'd be perfect for it. And the only reason he did it, and let's be honest, it's a business, is because they kept offering him more and more money, and he was like, all right. But in hindsight, now later on, he said, "Shit, that was my best work." So it was sort of a happy accident for him, I guess.
And Robert Vaughn was also. So let's think about that, because okay. So Robert Vaughn's interesting to me because he was a big deal around then because of his TV show The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in the mid-'60s. He was, I think, was Oscar nominated in '59. For The Young Philadelphians with Paul Newman, which is really
with Newman, yeah,
good. I love that.
Good movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, really good. And I got to see that again.
It's great. And a year after that, Vaughn did The Magnificent Seven with McQueen. A few years after Bullitt, they're both in The Towering Inferno with Newman as well. Yeah, Vaughn, and then I remember he was a Superman villain in Superman 3 with Christopher Reeves and Richard Pryor, of all people. But yeah, Robert Vaughn is he's great, man. He's talented,
really good.
I think, for that smarmy, looks good in a suit,
slimy guy.
Crooked, but yeah, just sort of douchey, whatever, agendaed man that he was in Bullitt. Chalmers, that was his name. Chalmers. Yeah, I remember that.
He's like
and Robert Duvall.
He's got that.
Let's not forget Robert Duvall as the taxi driver.
I was just it just hit me. I gotta bring up Duvall before we have to go. Yeah, Duvall. But you know what I just from a career point of view, I wonder why he agreed to do it, because he's only in 2 scenes,
He's
and
in
it's a
two
very
scenes.
minor role. And this is not his first movie. He had already been
No,
in To Kill a
he did
Mockingbird,
The Chase.
The Chase.
He's got a huge role
Yeah.
in The Chase with Brando and Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge cast. And then a couple years after The Chase, he's got a couple lines as a taxi driver in Bullitt. And you know what, though? I wonder if it isn't, because you asked, like, why he agreed. Maybe there's no options. Like, who knows? Like, maybe he had to. Like, maybe there was no work.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's true. I mean, maybe, for all I know, he was broke then, and who knows, right? I mean,
until The Godfather, he wasn't like a star.
No, yeah, but he had been, and he had some large parts in something with John Wayne too at that time.
Really?
So oh God, I can't remember, but he had been on Broadway, like he had again, not a star, but a working actor at that point. And he's in these 2 scenes where he's basically there. He was a witness to what happened. He drove the guy Ross. He drove him, and then McQueen found out, and then he told McQueen what happened. Like it's a very Aaron scene, right? Like giving information.
Yes.
However, that being said, when we talk about reactions, one of the reactions I always remember about this film is Duvall to McQueen, when he says to him, the second call was long distance. And McQueen says, how do you know? And he just kind of looks at him like, are you an idiot? And he goes, because he put in a lot of change. But it's very like...
Yeah, it's really good. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's so subtle, but he just kind of turns and he's just like, because he put in a lot of change. Like it's just somewhat hostile. And I just thought, I always love that. I don't know what,
Leave it to you to forget the car chase. Watch Robert Duvall turn to Steve McQueen and go, he put in a lot of change. Which is a good point. Yeah, man. Duvall, and it's just really quick, Duvall, I just saw this, I forget where, to tie in, the other day we did a little a YouTube thing on Lily Tomlin. And Tomlin was in New York City when Duvall, Gene Hackman, and Dustin Hoffman all lived together. And Lily Tomlin was a waitress at a little place that they would go into. And they all kind of knew each other because they were actors. And she went to see Duvall. She said, off Broadway and some little thing. And she goes, oh, you knew. That guy was the best. Robert Duvall was the best. And I just can't help but think, like, oh, what a cool small world. Like, an unknown Lily Tomlin, as a waitress, went to go see an up-and-coming Robert Duvall. And to no one's surprise, she's like, that's the guy. That guy's amazing.
Right.
But then, and no matter how good he is on stage, you go to Hollywood, you're playing the cab driver in Bullitt.
Right. Well, it's possible that he thought, well, this is maybe his agent was like, well, it's just a couple of scenes, but, this is McQueen. I think it's going to be big just to be in it.
True.
Well, who knows,
True.
right?
True.
Who knows? That being said, I think Duvall found, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but maybe he looked at it saying, shit, what can I do here that is not just me giving information, and I think that was just, to me, always stood out as a great, I always I bring it up every now and then to acting students, just like how subtle he is in that moment. But I don't know, I know you have to leave right at 11. Do you have the time?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're still good. It's
okay.
10:51. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll finish with one last thing I wanted to ask you, which obviously the 60s was post that 50s period where the method acting became so revolutionary. People were studying it to save their careers. you know, the Actors Studio, and yes, still a big deal in the 60s. However, less so for film actors,
Yeah.
I think. And McQueen, even though he's from that as well, was someone who was then going back to that studio system where we're going to tailor this persona to the film, like they would do with Cary Grant and Marilyn Monroe, those kind of actors who are also very, very good. But do you think that once the 70s rolled around, that he started to think, once the Dustin Hoffmans and the De Niros and the Pacinos,
and I think a couple things happened in the 70s. One, his wife has mentioned in a book I read that she wrote called "My Husband, My Friend." His first.
I have it. I still have to read it. Yeah.
Well, so her thing was he was an insecure guy,
right?
And you know, really for whatever reason chose Paul Newman as his arch enemy. And I think, you know, according to the wife, it was they came up at around the same time.
Right.
But Paul Newman was like more typically, you know, beautiful. Well, I'm gonna beat that guy. I'm good looking, rugged, and that was his thing, man. Like, I'm gonna be the man. He worked out every day and all that. But she said yes. Once Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino, but especially Dustin Hoffman, became not only successful actors but stars.
Stars, yeah.
Chased after, but like women, right? After The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman,
and not traditionally handsome.
Yeah,
not handsome, but not in the traditional sense. Whereas even those guys who became famous in the 50s, even though they were great actors, Newman, Dean, Brando, Clift, they were very good looking
guys.
You know, and model type. You know,
McQueen was like threatened. I don't get it. Like, Paul Newman, I get. Okay, fine. He's more famous than me. I get it. It sucks. But Dustin Hoffman. So what did McQueen do? Get me a role with him. Now that's
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Keep your enemies
totally
closer. And maybe, and McQueen, what I understood is maybe I can learn off him. But of course, the story is when he got like Dustin, it's sort of like the Olivier Hoffman Marathon Man thing. Like, McQueen was like, "What are you doing? Just
right.
Chill out." And I've heard, and Hoffman agreed. Like, yeah, you know what? Like, you've already got. We know who you are. You got the glasses.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And but so a couple things. So I think
I wrote that in my review on Papillon. That he said keep it simple, man. Like, you don't have to bring in 1,000 ways to do a scene. Yeah, and I read that in the biography on McQueen.
Yeah, and so I think when those guys and then later De Niro and everyone became the stars, I think two things happened. McQueen kind of, what's my place? He felt. He was also in his 40s and kind of everything I've read, he sort of just, I've gotten as big as I'm going to get by like 1972. After, I think, The Getaway. It's a town for these young guys now. And he didn't, I won't turn it into that, but like, he lived pretty unhealthily there. Like, he just kind of went nuts and just lived in the house and started drinking at 7 a.m. and charged $20,000 just to read a script.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Spielberg met with him to do Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And McQueen agreed to the meeting, but had to be paid $20,000 to take the meeting and to read the script. And so I guess the studio paid that. And Spielberg says he met McQueen in a bar. McQueen got hammered drunk, stood up and said, "Sorry, buddy, I'm not doing it." And Spielberg said, "Why?" And McQueen went, "I can't cry on film," and walked out. And that was it. And so I think a bunch of things were going on. I think he was aware. He was insecure. He definitely thinks, this new generation's taking over. I don't have a place. He'd also achieved financially. He seems like one of those guys that my goal in life is to get this much money. Once he got it, it didn't maybe bring the happiness he thought. And it seemed like he was just sort of sitting there on a hill in Hollywood in his big house, and what now? And he just sort
Right.
of nothing.
Right.
And he really didn't do anything. Until, like you mentioned it somewhere, he got interested in Ibsen's plays, like toward the end of his life. He started to get interested, like for real, in theater.
Yeah.
But there was a few years in the early to mid 70s where he just didn't care. Like he was done.
Right. I think he started to come around to where his roots were, in the sense of like like what Pacino and Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep, what these kind of actors were interested in was playing challenging roles that weren't just them naturally, like character parts. And I think that maybe he was terrified of that. But then I think he began to come around to it. That was my, again, with doing, Ibsen and Pinter. I mean, I mean, I can only assume, but I think he was starting to think, and get interested in it, as opposed to, well, I have to do it because these guys are doing it. I think he did get back to,
I think so,
what an actor is all about, as opposed to being a brand. And I think now we're in a bit of a middle ground with that, because as I'm sure you see, there's so much good courses and good ways for actors to market themselves, to actually build a career. But they talk about that a lot now. Brand yourself. Casting directors will see you in 2 or 3 ways. So what can you do? And I hate that, because I think I don't want to fucking brand myself. I'm an actor, man. But we kind of jump back and forth between actor and brand, I think in the last 100 years or
it's actor and wannabe star, right? And I think that's where the whole thing gets mixed up. And I'm sure to an agent, it's, well, the money isn't in me representing a character actor. The money, potentially, is in me representing someone who gets a superhero franchise. And what's the easiest way to do that? Well, let's give you that brand. Maybe it's
or
not
just
hero,
what they're looking for. Yeah. Or if they're looking for a guy who looks like whatever is in, then if you
100%.
look like that, then your chances are way
100%.
up. But
100%.
So I think he started to, and it's a shame that he passed. He got, who knows where his career would have went. That being said, they're giving us
away from what he was doing. I think it would have gone away from just.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. But then again, if you look at the '80s, who knows? Maybe he would have went back into it.